that would be a hell of a start. No, I have a personal show that I do specifically because of this because I can't.
Mm,
I need a separate space for that. That's a
totally.
whole other
I
conversation.
totally understand that.
And we should be live.
All right.
Let's see here. Yeah, perfect. Right on. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for everyone for joining us, and thank you. Is it Stuz0r? Is that what you prefer to be
Stuz0r.
called?
Yep. Yep.
Stuz0r.
Absolutely.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thank you for making the time. I appreciate it.
For sure.
Right on. So I stumbled upon your profile initially with these huge overarching pieces that you've done. Is 3D modeling or what's the name for it?
Yeah. So, I would say 99.9, and the reason for that is I'll go into that later, but the majority of my work is, yes, it's done in 3D modeling. It's 3D software, and the software that I use generally is Cinema 4D, and then I use Blender, and then for just about every animation that I have done in the past, I'd say 3 years, is done using Unreal Engine, which is a gaming software actually, which anyone can actually learn to use it for free. It's a free software that you can use and download. So yeah, so it's a 3D modeling and rendering software.
I see. I see. And have you? Is this like always been your medium, or is it just kind of something that you stumbled into?
Yeah, so actually, in my bios for all of my social channels, there's a simple little sentence that says I can't draw, and so,
Right.
uh, and this goes all the way back to elementary school. Is I've always wanted to be able to draw, and I'd always try drawing cartoons and stuff like that, and I was never really as good as my friends, or I didn't think I was as good as them. And so as I got older and kind of started finding different mediums and then finding out about 3D software and stuff like that, I kind of started taking that route to be able to create artwork. And so I just kind of stuck with that from, I mean, all the way back in high school and stuff. I was using like Vue and Bryce 3D whenever I just rip it off Napster back in the day. And so I kind of just started dabbling in it way back then, and then somehow I managed to make a career out of it. Yeah,
Yeah. Good old Napster for the poor
Napster.
starving artist or Pirate Bay or what
Mm-hmm.
have you.
Oh yeah.
Right on. And so you say that this is your full time gig right now?
Yeah, so I do basically commission style work. So a lot of concert visuals, a lot of album artwork I've done over the years, book covers, product renders, just kind of everything that stage design for some companies. Just anything that really involves any kind of 3D work I've done over the past since I've been doing this for myself, which is about 2017. So from then all the way till now, that's basically what I've been doing full time.
Wow. Now, when you say like concert setups, would it be any acts that we would have seen at like Ultra or something or?
Yeah, sure. So I've done some. Boy, I'm trying to go back through my library in my mind. I started off doing some for Imagine Dragons back in like 2017, and then I did some for a band called Stained, and then I've done some for. It wasn't really concert visuals, I guess, at this point, but I did some work for Childish Gambino when he was at Coachella,
Oh, right
and
on.
then let me think what else here. Just recently, I did some for Luke Bryan, who's a country music act.
Mm-hmm.
I did some visuals for him, and then Marco Mangione, who's a Italian artist who's on tour right now. Actually, I just finished up some visuals for him, which was actually a pretty crazy uh, piece because it's a 15-minute long animation. And
Whoa.
so it's his first three songs of his tour. So the very first three songs coming right out of the gate, my visuals, 100% of those are mine up on the big old screen behind him. And doing that visual setup in Unreal Engine is what made that 15-minute long animated piece possible because it's so fast at rendering. So those are some of the artists I've worked with as far as concert visuals go. Oh, and then of course, I did some for Elenium. That's kind of where I got my start doing album artwork and concert visuals, actually. Yeah, so those are just right now off the top of my head that I can remember. Those are some of the ones that some of the artists I've worked with over the years.
Gotcha, gotcha. And I guess that's what we're looking at here, like this the background drop, or sorry, the backdrop that
That's
he
right.
has here when he's sitting there.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, so that piece actually right there that you're looking at, that piece is the final of the 15-minute long set, and it's just basically, and it kind of shows it there. I think towards the end of this video here, but the moon starts rising as like the birds are flying over as he like gets towards the end of the song. It just was a really, really, uh, it was actually a really fun project to work on because they gave me just, hey, here are the storyboards, and we just want them to look like your style, and good luck, have fun. And that
Hmm.
was pretty much it. And it was one of those clients where anything like I would send over, and not only just the client, but the musician, the artist himself. They were just like, "This is fantastic. Could we make the color just a little more pink?" Like stuff like that. And then you'd make those revisions, and then after one or two, they were like, "This is absolutely fantastic. We love it." And those are the best clients to work with when you both respect each other's vision, and it just comes together really nice at the end.
Right on. That's wicked, man. Um,
Appreciate
15
it.
minute visual. That's nothing to scoff at. That must have taken like a bit of time. Or do you just like set up loops for certain things that just gotta
So
replay?
Right. So this is actually not a loop. This one was because what happens is there's constant movement in it. So for the first piece, and I'll end up posting these since they're out in the wild now. I'll end up posting these clips. So the first clip, you're looking at a lighthouse, and basically the camera's pulling back over the ocean, over sea, or I'm sorry, over the beach, and
Mm-hmm.
then through some rocky cliffs that become the next scene. So it's actually one entire scene. Um, and yeah, so you couldn't. There was no looping possible. It was all one fell swoop.
Wow, it's quite the effort.
Yeah, and again, the way to that I was able to pull that off is because Unreal Engine, it renders so fast. So for example, these clips, so they're broken into or I'm sorry, three parts. So each part was 5 minutes long. And to render out a 5 minute clip, I think I rendered it at 4K. So 5 minutes is roughly 8,000 ish frames. Each frame, is a picture. Um, that 5 minute long clip only took maybe 10 minutes to render, which in your standard rendering software would take, depending on your computer, or if you use a cloud rendering network. But if you use your own computer, that would end up taking you probably a week to render a 5 minute long clip at 4K with the fog and like all the stuff going on. So yeah, again, it's very Unreal Engine is fantastic for rendering out animations. Obviously, it has its strong points, and it has its weak points. But if you can do it right and you find the right job for it, it's great.
Okay. And for in terms of rendering, you said do you personally like use cloud or like you have your own setup? Because I know that like even the little video editing that I do for interviews like these, I still have to have like a decent graphics card, and it does take like I don't know like a half hour or so to render like a 3 hour interview. But like a 3D project, something on this kind of scale, I don't think my rig would be able to handle that. Or if it could, it would take days to finish.
Well, yeah, and that's exactly what you would think because of the previous way that we'd render things out. So you could actually probably get away with rendering something like this on a laptop in probably 15 minutes. Um, that's how weird Unreal Engine works. Like it's really weird that it works like that. Now those types of renders like you're seeing right there, those are made in like Cinema 4D and Octane. Using those rendering setups, it takes far longer to do stuff like that. So it would take a significant more amount of time. And so I do have a decent setup here. It was built by a company called Puget systems that build custom PCs. And so my computer has dual 3090 cards in it, which are a little bit older now. So they're about two versions previous to the newest version that's out with NVIDIA graphics cards. But I do have a pretty decent setup, and it does a really good job. But again, for all the animated or all the animation pieces that I've been working on over the past several years, I do it in Unreal Engine, and my setup, while it does play a big role in rendering in Unreal Engine, I have rendered pretty decent sized animations off of laptops when I've been out traveling or on vacation, and a pretty good amount of time as well. So it's definitely something, if you're an artist out there, a 3D artist, or you do any animation work, it would be really good to probably just, put in a week to really learn Unreal. It's just a really great tool to have in your belt. So
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, it's nothing to scoff at. The few show reels that I've seen of Unreal Engine, they're, I mean, essentially lifelike.
Right.
They look almost, I mean, yeah, like basically like a photograph. If you're able to
Yeah.
render it at 4K or what have you. But even at 1080p, like, I mean, it looks indistinguishable from real life almost.
I mean, that looks. I'm coming from a world where the traditional 3D rendering world, like something like that being able to even be run as a game or real time is just absolutely insane to me. And yes, there's going to be little inconsistencies, and there's going to be, oh, the light doesn't work perfectly this way, or the glass looks weird, but I mean overall that looks pretty crazy to me, that being able to be run in real time.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it just makes me wonder like where it's all like what the next like step is. We've already gotten to like
Right.
essentially like realism as real can be on the
I,
screen.
I mean, it's one of those weird things that when you take a step back, because if you remember like the first Toy Story movie that came out, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, this looks so real." And I feel like
Hmm.
that's kind of what we are always experiencing now, like every year or two. We see um I remember seeing Unreal, was it the or I can't remember. I think it was the last version of Unreal Engine 4, or maybe it was the beginning of 5, right when Nanite came out and Lumen, and I was like, this is nuts. But now it looks even better than it did then. And so yeah, it's pretty incredible to see the advancements that they've made on that. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean the fact that we started from here, and
Mhm. Right. That's right.
now we're here, incredible. Um, so in terms of your work with 3D modeling, because some people choose to do world building, others choose to just like make little trinkets or sceneries or what have you. Some people go into gaming. What was it for you that drove you to kind of go about like the world building of it? Because I mean, I've seen like these scenes and reels on Instagram, and um, there's just I find it difficult to find like the words to describe like just how I feel when I look at it, when I see like these giant towering like ominous figures. I'd imagine there's a lot of thought that would have to go into painting each and every scene. uh so anyway,
Yeah,
long
it's
story short, what's like what is it that drove you to world building?
yeah, for sure. So it was one of those things where I wanted to create stuff that I wanted to see, like if I could see it in real life, essentially. And so, or I wanted to see that type of artwork. And it was kind of the same mindset I had. So back whenever I was in a band, we would make music, and I was always like, I wanted to make music, the stuff that I would want to listen to. Like, I think that's kind of what we all probably strive for, but it was just the same for this. It was like I wanted to create things that if I was standing there like looking at this stuff, or I was the character looking up at these things, or in this scene or scenario or whatever, that I would be like, this is really crazy, or this is like really really cool. I mean, it's a really kind of a dumb, like watered down version of a response to like what you're asking, but I mean, in the simplest form, that's what it was. It was like I wanted to create something that I just thought looked cool, and that if I could be there, I would just be blown away by what I was seeing, essentially.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's certainly not a stupid explanation for it. I mean, anybody that works as a creative in, you know, regardless of discipline, like one of the common threads that I find in these interviews is that uh, what they want to see in the world just doesn't exist yet, and they have a drive
Mm.
to make it come to reality. So no, it's certainly not a dumb way of going about it. If anything, that actually probably gets to the heart of it, of why people create anything really.
Yeah, and yeah, that's exactly right. That's kind of what I was trying to get to at the very beginning. It's like, why do we create? Well, we're making something that we wish existed, or we could hear, or we could touch, see, whatever. And so, um, just another point on that is, with Unreal Engine, I can put my VR headset on and I can be standing there looking up at these massive things. And I haven't found a good way to put that out to the public yet, where they can download like these little packaged programs where you can just, click on it, stick on your headset, and then you're also in this world. But I'm able to do that, and I'm able to be standing down in between like all these like monk dudes sitting on the floor, like looking up at this massive thing walking in front of you, and it's super weird feeling.
I mean, you could probably like release it as like on Steam as like a playable demo essentially, and like the only controls
That's
that you would have is just kind of like sitting around and watching. Like you can't interact with anything.
Yeah, and I need to learn how to package up the project files, publish them so I can actually do that. I just haven't taken the time really because I get so excited. I see the little VR headset button up there and I just stick on my headset. And I'm like, ooh, let's see what this looks like. Click, and then I'm like sitting there and then I'm like, okay, let's get to the next thing. And so, I do need to take time to actually uh, learn how to do that because I think people, once they actually see it in that medium, it is a whole different experience then.
Yeah, because I figure it's one thing to just kind of sit there and look at this giant, like sprawling thing towering over you, but it's another to actually to sit and be able to look around and you see all the details of everybody in the crowd and everything is rendered
Right.
properly. It would give it some. It would give it some more perspective. I figure.
Right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, no, that would be a cool idea because that we're kind of moving in that direction with art. Um,
Hmm.
there's really only so many ways you could kind of experience it, whether it's like a some kind of a live presentation or you're just looking at a canvas or an image on the phone, but
Yeah.
something that you actually go to a place, digital or otherwise, and experience it happening, unfolding right in front of you. I mean, I guess we have movies, but it's not nearly the same thing.
Well, on that point, actually, and that what we were talking about, that's just triggered something that I had just seen recently on, on TikTok or Reel, Instagram Reels or something. I guess in LA they have these movie theaters now where you have the screen, but then you have, and it's almost kind of like a mini sphere, like in Las Vegas. So you have the screen in front of you, but then you have a bigger screen behind you. And for example, one of my favorite movies, they have The Matrix playing on the
Mm,
screen.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
for example, like when the helicopter hits the building and those like waves warp out, the entire theater around you is giant city buildings, and that wave continues onto the massive screen behind you. So it looks like you're like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. So for another example is when they're in that white room and all the arsenal of like weapons are like flying past him when Morpheus is talking to Neo. So when all those weapons kind of come, like the rows of them kind of come zooming towards him, towards Morpheus and Neo, they actually like zoom past you on the walls also. So it like looks like you're standing in that room with them. So it's pretty incredible. Yeah, okay, there you go. Um, it just looks really, really cool. I watched a couple videos of that and I was like, man, that is a next level stuff right there.
Yeah, yeah. This is the Cosm Theater.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. Yeah, so like exactly. That's exactly right. That's so crazy to me. Ah,
Yeah, that
and they have
certainly adds
like,
another dimension to it.
yeah, like that right there, that scene is just so crazy to me. That one too with all the Matrix text and stuff. Anyway, I just thought that was really cool.
I wonder where they're located.
No one's in LA because I saw it was like the Cosmo in LA or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen them also
I'm,
have they'll show like sports games as well, and they do have
Yes,
cameras like
yes,
on the field, so you actually feel like
yep.
you're literally right there.
I, I saw that. I saw that was the first one I saw, and I was like, cool. These people are in like box seats watching this soccer game, and then it showed how it was like turning, and it was a screen, and I was like, what the heck? Like that's nuts.
Oh yeah, and they also had the UFC. Oh, I guess they use it for
Oh
everything
yeah,
now.
yeah. I mean, what a great idea. I think. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that would certainly beat watching it at home for sure.
I'm just curious. Like tickets are probably like what $100 a piece or something like that. Probably.
I'd
I
imagine
don't know.
close to, but they make enough on
Yeah.
concessions. Like everybody has all these comfy seats and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
But
But yeah, I mean, that's just and so sometimes I have like some of my work and people are like, well, why don't you just render it out like in After Effects where you basically can put on a headset and you're like looking around and it looks like it's all around you. But there's a difference there because even like what you're looking at here is it's still a 2D image on a flat plane. While it does a great job encompassing you and making you feel like you're in the environment, you can't move through the scene. And that's the part where, like for my artwork, for example, I think that VR and like the whatever's out the Quest and all those other headsets where you can actually move and kind of like walk through these scenes, it just adds a whole different feel to everything. Yeah.
yeah, and looking at tickets here, it's not that expensive. For the Matrix, it's about 50,
Okay.
60 bucks.
Okay. That's yeah. It's about half what I thought it was going to be. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd shell out 50 to go see something like that for sure.
Oh, easily, yeah. No, definitely, definitely. And when you got started with this, did you go to school for any of this kind of stuff, or just all like
Yeah.
learned from home?
Yeah. So I went to college for 3D kind of modeling and design and I did learn a lot. I learned a lot there, but that was back in 2007, um, 2007 to 2010, and essentially you can. And I'm not downplaying any educational educational stuff here, but you can learn pretty much everything I learned now just on YouTube. That sounds crazy, but I mean, there's lots of tutorials out there now for all this kind of stuff, and really, if you want to learn how to do this, there's plenty. I mean, I have a couple resources on my. I'm horrible at making YouTube videos. I don't hardly ever do it just because I don't have the time really. But I have a few out there that kind of show the kind of the beginnings of how to kind of get started in some of this. But there's so much out there now that you can learn just if you're curious about wanting to do this that you can just go out there and within a week you kind of have a good understanding of how these programs work and yeah, it's just really then it's kind of up to your imagination. Like, what do you want to make? What do you want stuff to look like? And then you kind of just go from there, really.
Hmm. So, what is it that people usually go into work for, like with that kind of a degree? I'd imagine like something like architecture and
Yeah,
animation.
yeah. So, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff. So, really, kind of in my area of it, it's a lot of concert visuals. A lot of artists out there that want to do concert visuals. And then the other probably part of that would be visual effects for movies, video games. Um, I'm trying to think here what else I was going to say. Oh, book like album artwork, obviously, book covers. Um, so really, there's just all kinds of different things, and I would say that the best thing to do, and I don't know about now, it's a little different now. I was gonna say if you just put your stuff out there on like pretty much all social media as much as you can, you kind of saturate the feeds of people, but it doesn't seem to quite work the way it did when I would say that like 3 or 4 years ago. It's a little different now. So I'd say it's a little more difficult and a little more challenging to get out there and to be seen by people compared to what it was like 3 or 4 years ago. But there's jobs out there. Behance is good. That's a really good site to be on because you can actually like find jobs. There's lots of job postings on there in your specific field that pay really well. And I've actually got the majority of my bigger client jobs through Behance. So it's
Hmm.
weird. So Behance has usually been more of like topper, like higher end professional businesses, and then Instagram has been more like concert visuals, album artwork, and then here on X it's been pretty much nothing. So I don't know. You can, if you want to be on here. For an artist on X right now, it's kind of dead. There's not a whole lot going on. I mean, there's a couple of artists out there that are doing well in like the NFT space, which kind of has X's X has become kind of an NFT area for artists over the past, I'd say, 3 or 4 years. And so if you're not really in that space, it's kind of hard to be seen or get exposure or any kind of like momentum behind your stuff these days. But
Hmm.
I don't know, you might get lucky. You might be one of those people that throw your stuff out there and, get shared a million times and you're off to the races. So you're just kind of up to the mercy of the social media algorithm gods at this point. So
Okay. And you mentioned that it's a little bit harder to make your way as an artist just through socials alone these days. And is it? Do you think it's because like the market is now like it's more saturated? There's more people in the space, or
right. So I think it's a few things, and I've been trying to kind of work my way through the way that things have gone over the past several years and trying to figure it out, and it is tough. So I think there's a few things. I think that everyone or all of the social media channels now, they seem to be more monetization based, and they want you to promote, like pay for promotional ads and to get your work out there to get more reach. And I think what's happening is that because you can monetize, so for example, I'll just give a quick example. So my Instagram account used to have, I don't know, this is back when I had like 100,000 followers. I would get anywhere between 6 to 10,000 likes on just an image post by itself. It would pay me nothing. I got no money out of it, no monetization, but people that followed me would see my work, and because of that, I would get jobs from that. So basically, it was kind of like a portfolio or a billboard that you see on the side of the road. It was promoting my work. As
hmm
soon as they started being like, "Oh, hey, let's start monetizing these posts," so when people, the more visits you have to your page, you'll get paid for it. Well, that kind of started happening in around 2021, 2022. And as soon as that started happening, everybody's reach just absolutely tanked. Like, I mean, it went from 60, 70, 80,000 people seeing my posts to now I have usually 8,000 people seeing my posts. So it's gone down an absolute significant amount. And it's not just on Instagram. That happened on Behance. That happened on Twitter. That happened on. Uh, the only one that somehow has gone up has been Facebook, oddly enough.
hmm.
Um, but I would say that, so I would say the monetization and then basically having to essentially pay to play on the social media channels has probably made it more difficult for artists to make it these days using social media as a promotional tool. And then, and this is there's a huge controversy with this this thing I'm about to say. So let's say I'm a big business, and I want to make some still renders of a mug that we designed. Well, instead of hiring a or booking a studio, hiring a designer, renting out camera equipment, renting out lighter, someone to light the scenes and all this other stuff, I'm just gonna go into Midjourney now, take a picture of my mug, put it in there, say I want it on this back XYZ background. Now you have a decent looking product placement piece. So you can use AI now, and you've cut the costs of your product development by 98%. So I think AI is it's everyone everyone's having to adapt to this weird new tool that's out there, and I do think that artists, traditional, well, I say traditional, 3D is not, I guess, traditional, but artists like me that have been doing this and have basically been making a living off of creating these things for people. Now that these people can go into an AI program and basically type out what they want and get extremely similar results to what we can produce, has also made it more challenging. And I've gone into Midjourney and I've typed in like my style, and it will output things that are incredibly similar to my artwork. And so, yeah, like that is concerning to me, that a band that wants a look that I produce, that they're like, you know what? We don't really have the budget to pay this guy. Let's just go into, let's pay the $30 a month or whatever for Midjourney, and we can just take, because you can essentially take screenshots of my images or anyone's images and put them in. They have a image reference thing. You can just drag and drop it right in there, and then you can just
Mm.
modify it, saying what you want it to look like. Output, boom, you got something super similar. You're good to go. And then they'll be like, you know what? We just saved $3,000. It doesn't look exactly like we want it to, but it looks close enough. That'll work. That has also made it, I think, extremely challenging for a lot of artists that have been coming up over the past 10 years and are now finding themselves kind of in this new kind of uh-oh phase of like what's going on. And don't get me wrong, like I have made some stuff in AI and it's fun. Like I have a lot of fun. I have kind of that same feeling using Midjourney and creating these videos that I had when I first started doing 3D, which is kind of this like, oh man, these possibilities are endless. But I can also see the damage that can be done to, a significant amount of artists, even photographers. Like, let's say you want to use a sunset filled, with thunderhead clouds in the sky, and it's a sunset landscape, and you want to use that as a backdrop in your image. Well, in the past, you would go and you would license one of these images out. But now you can go into Midjourney, type that in, and you have a so for example, that sunset right there, if you go up a little bit, if you go up on my feed, I'm guilty of doing this. I created a sunset looking image in the background. Yeah, right there. And that's AI. That background is.
Mm.
And now people aren't licensing out images anymore. They're just creating their own. And so it's, I don't know, it's this weird thing. So again, like I said, I think it's hard for artists that have basically made a career out of what they do for the past like 10, 20 years to be finding themselves in social media, that it's hard to get your stuff out there now. It's way harder than it was before, meaning that it even, I have 275, 76,000 followers on Instagram. 1% or less see my work regularly.
Wow.
Um, and people might say, "Oh, well, no one uses Instagram anymore," but like I've gained 20,000 followers on Instagram in the past, couple months. So people are still using it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so like um even on here, I have, when I first started posting on Twitter, I had 1,000 followers. I have, I don't know, 57,000 or 8, but my post gets 600 people see it. So there is something weird happening with all these social media channels, and it does make it so, again, for us that are used to how things used to be, it's we're having to now adapt our thought and our process and our marketing and like all this stuff to try and make it into what what works now. And it's very hard. It's a hard thing. It's a lot of obstacles to try and overcome, and it's very frustrating, right? It's frustrating for me that I was able to get my stuff out there, and now all of a sudden, Instagram and Twitter and all these places are like, you know what? Nah, we don't want people to see your stuff anymore. If you want to have, the same amount of people see your stuff nowadays, you have to pay $50 for this post to be seen by the same amount of people. And so it'd be the same as like, I equate it to being the same as like if I had a billboard out in a city and I paid for that billboard and it was out there, or I grew, let's say, I didn't actually pay for my Instagram, but I grew my brand and that billboard was out there. And
Hmm.
then all of a sudden a construction company or whatever, or a contracting company was like, oh, you know what? We're going to place a huge building right in front of that billboard that you've had there for 10 years. and then no one sees your stuff anymore. It's just like there's that building there, and some people might see it if they look just in the right amount of time when they drive by it, but for the most part, it's useless now. It's kind of that same way, and it does make you want to just kind of like throw your hands up and be like, "This is ridiculous." Again, I'm not making money on posting anything. It's just I just simply want people that follow me to see my stuff, which I don't think is a crazy ask, since that's why these platforms were created essentially in the first place. But yeah, it's tough. Sorry, that's a really long-winded way and a lot of frustration, but it's very tough. And for the up and comers, man, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
No, that's fair. The show is made for tangents, so but by all means, rant away. But I was just as you were saying that. In terms of the reach, I was scrolling through your feed, and I must have seen like at least 20 posts or something, and really only one or two maybe cracked like more than 2K impressions. Just about every
Right.
single one of them was under 1,000, and as you said, like you have 50K followers on X
So,
anyways.
and I did just go yesterday or the day before, and I got on here and I was like, "Hey, there's some people I haven't seen on here in a while," and I thought that they just quit. I thought they quit X. I thought they quit everything, or maybe like we're working on a job where they're not able to like post stuff as much
Hmm.
anymore. And I got on and I just kind of went through my friends list and I clicked on their accounts and I was like, these people have been posting every single day for the past several months, and I have not seen one thing from them. And even on my feed, like I'll go to at the top there's a like a for you on X, and then there's the
Hmm.
following. And on both, like on both tabs, I usually go to my following, because in the past it would be like a chronological time of people that would post, and I would see their stuff. But even now, like they've done something and I don't see their stuff anymore on there. And so I had to actually like go back through my friends list and be like, "Oh crap, man, like I haven't seen any stuff from you. I thought like you had stopped posting work." And I've had the same happen to me on Twitter, or I'm sorry, on Instagram. I'll usually post something just like a post that just has some text and being like, "Hey guys, if you see this, I'm still posting artwork. However, for whatever reason, you're not seeing it, but hopefully this will help reset your algorithm or whatever." And it usually, a lot of times, if I post a text post, bam, 50 people will message me and be like, "I have not seen your artwork in several months. This is the first time I've seen anything from you." So it's, again, I don't know what they're trying to do or what they're trying to push or anything like that, but it doesn't seem to be artwork as much anymore. So I don't know.
Yeah, part of the issue is, and I this took a while for me to deal with on both my personal and the Outsider Supply page, is that if you have a lot of bot followers, that will actually affect your reach, which I find ridiculous because like anyone can literally just send bots to follow, any whichever account as long as it matches like the predetermined terms. But the moment that I did that, like I had to painstakingly go through like all the like followers that we have and purge every single one of them that was like an OnlyFans bot or like a porn bot or what have you. And that like boosted our reach like a little bit more, but it felt like it's not that we were getting like a helping hand, it's just that we got like the boot off our neck. And even then, like still realistically, I don't know why things go viral. Like there was one post that um we hit 60K impressions at one point, which like we rarely do. It's not like a common occurrence. I might be able to find it here. Yeah, this one right here. We shared this photo of this artist. Who does these interesting sketches of cats in interesting places.
Yeah.
I think they're
Wow.
based in
Yeah.
Japan or Korea. Um, but yeah, like we shared this post and all of a sudden got like 75K views, and I looked at like the people that were actually responding to it, and
Uh-huh.
99% of them were not verified. So I was like, oh well, these impressions don't really matter then, because like most of these people are bots anyways. Like this
Yeah,
is pointless.
that's been very frustrating, because I did read that on Instagram, if you have a bunch of fake accounts following you, that does
Hmm.
uh can hinder like your engagement, your reach and stuff like that. But the problem is I went through and I was like, "Oh, cool. I'll just get rid of, all these deactivated accounts, but I have 4,500 deactivated accounts following me.
Uh,
And to remove each one, you click on it, and then you have to click on the next button that says, "Are you sure you want to delete them?" Yep. And I can't do that over 4,000 times where it takes, 10 seconds to remove one person. And so I'm like, cool, I guess I'm just going to have these, over 4,000 deactivated accounts following me that I can never just have them all deleted because there's no option to even do that. There's the ones um that are that are bot accounts that you can do like kind of I think a mass removal, but deactivated accounts you have to go through every single one and remove manually.
mm.
And I was like, I don't have time to remove 4,000 plus accounts. That's crazy. Anyway.
Yeah, there was actually a while back I saw a developer on Twitter that was experiencing like the same issue. This was like at the peak of um like all the bot issues. It was shortly after Elon
Yeah.
Musk bought the platform,
Right.
and this whole issue came to light. And he actually created a tool for it where I think he paid like, I don't know. I don't remember if it was a flat fee or subscription, but you paid some kind of a small fee. It must have been like less than $50, and he would essentially scrape the account followers, every single one of them, cross-check them for I don't know, like whether they had OnlyFans links or what have you, because that's like the
Hmm.
easiest thing to get tripped on, and then it would just automatically delete the followers like that. Now, I don't know what that would look like implementing for Instagram, but for Twitter, last I checked, he did have like a workable app. I just didn't want to pay the fee, so I did it manually, and it took a bit of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but that would actually probably be like a really useful tool to have as like kind of an addition. I don't know. Yeah, it would be interesting to see if there is an implementation with Instagram, because I know for a fact that like Twitter might have a bot problem, but boy, Instagram is just rifled with that, because the amount of
Oh, I, I
the verification you have to have for Meta is so high, like in terms of like all the photos you have
mhm.
to send and all this other stuff, that like most people just don't bother.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I every day I go through my Instagram and then go into the hidden folder, and it's always like, the same four pictures of the same four girls that like group
Mm-hmm.
message everyone, like the like porn links and stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, dude, just guys, like it's yeah. And then having to like remove the accounts and stuff like that, it's just so tedious over there. And on here, to be honest, I don't know. I don't I don't even know if I've gone to my follower list on X within maybe the past couple years, just because I'm kind of like whatever. So I don't know. I feel like that process is just so ridiculous that people have to spend any amount of time going through and like cleaning house just to get your stuff out there to be seen is just a ridiculous thing. And I know it has to be. It's like, come on, guys, come on, let's use AI for something like that, please.
Yeah, I might actually. You know what? That gives me an idea. I might want to spend some time maybe working on that, because Claude now, like with AI, you can just like create these tools to make that. And I don't know what kind of parameters you
Oh,
would need
nice.
to set that up, but there would be um there would be a lot of value in a tool like that, because ever since I've started like managing Outsider Supplies X page, I realized just um how intricate like some of the work has to be done in terms of like gaining a mass following, and how like purposeful you have to be with your posts. Like there's a lot to it that goes into like the biggest accounts. I mean, obviously, like you have cloud farmers, people that are just trying to like rage bait people into just responding. I remember for the longest
Right.
time the meta was like, um you would get, the moment that they launched the creator ad revenue program on X,
Hmm.
the thing that paid out was like having long threads, where people
Oh,
would
right.
respond, and so everyone would be like, "Oh, top 10 ways to do this." Like it just like BuzzFeeded it essentially. Um,
Yes.
and now that meta has thankfully like changed, and I don't know what it is now, but uh, there is still a lot of people trying to game the algorithm like that, and it's very annoying. But yeah, I find I'm very liberal with like the, I don't want to see this on my timeline, because otherwise I just like
Yeah.
get all this like political slop, and I'm like, man, I don't
Right.
care about that. I'm here for art. I just want to see art.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's interesting. Were you talking about? Sorry, were you talking about Threads or did you say X when you saw like all the
X,
like top
X.
10 X? Okay, because Threads was guilty of doing that. Also they were doing a Threads bonus, which was actually really nice. For artists, it was they did a nice bonus program. But what happened is that then you had all these people coming out of the woodwork being like the top 10 ways you can get blah blah blah, and they were paying for views. So
Hmm.
basically it was really nice for me because it was a nice little bit of passive income because I would just post my stuff just like my artwork like normal, and they actually would pay a monthly thing. It was a nice incentive to post on there, and I think probably what they were doing, they've canceled it now as far as I know, but I know what they were doing is they were basically trying to promote their platform and get a lot more people to join. But that the only other program, or I'm sorry, the only other platform that I've used that's done a decent job at paying was on Facebook. They do a pretty good job of a creator incentive program on there, and basically you just get paid for views and engagement and stuff like that. But it's a shame that there's so many bot accounts and stuff like that that kind of ruin that stuff for a lot of us that just go out there and they just farm engagement. And it's kind of like the thing that's like you're in class and your teacher allows you to chew gum, and then one or two kids just start sticking gum under their chairs and desks, and then they're like, okay, no
Yeah.
more gum for any of you guys. It's kind of that. I feel like that kind of is inevitable for all of these platforms that do monetization. And I know a lot of accounts are done. So like on TikTok, for example, um, they do like product, like the shops and
Hmm.
seller, whatever it's called. But yeah, like I've always just been like, man, listen, if I get paid just for people to see my stuff, like that's a super sweet bonus to go along with what I do. I'm not expecting that. I think it's funny, and I usually will post a screenshot, for example, of like my Instagram revenue, which is $0. I always go in and it's like, how much money, man? Like people are like, wow, you got all these followers, and sometimes things that you post, there's like posts you've had that have had a million views and hundreds, hundreds of thousands of likes, and I'm like, dude, I've made $0 on Instagram, and I always post a little screenshot of like my Instagram, just kind of as a joke, like being like, guys, like you can have all these followers and like all this stuff, and you will get nothing from it. If I know there's people out there that do the marketing, they're like, buy this product and blah blah blah, and like that's their whole thing, but that's not what I do. So
Hmm.
that's I accept that. But anyway, I just think it's funny because like on TikTok I've had several pieces that get I think I've had a piece that has like 4 million views and 80,000 likes, and I have my running balance for TikTok, and I've had a couple of those over the past like year, and my running account balance on TikTok is $4.32. So I don't know. Not in it for the money game, I guess, as far as like posting work and stuff. So
Yeah, fair enough. Do you mind if we just take a quick 5 minute break here?
absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay, we'll be right back, guys. All right, and we're back. Um, yeah, algorithm being what it is. I mean, not much any one of us can do to really change that besides just kind of put our wishes out there in the ether. But I have faith that this is going to cause enough frustration for someone to actually take it onto themselves to create a platform that, regardless of the niche, artists or otherwise, something that is a little bit more in line with the idea of social media as not this like advertisement hellscape, but something that actually rewards independent creators. I think it's only a matter of time before something like that comes about.
Yeah, I hope so. It's one of those things where it seems like it's so difficult to try and like maybe get something running from the ground. I mean, the uh the creator of Twitter, he created Blue Sky, and I
Hmm.
think that's even had, has had some traction issues getting,
Oh yeah.
because every once in a while I'll go in there and I'll and it's, it's not, it gets, pretty much nothing. But it is, it's too bad because Instagram, when it started, it was just food pictures, baby pictures, sunsets, stuff like that. And it was just a place to share your photography and stuff like that. And then I found I found Beeple on there. I was sitting at my old job and I saw his stuff and I was like, oh crap, like, man, this is really cool. And I kind of learned about some new rendering software and I was like, I'm just gonna start kind of doing that same thing that he's doing. And so that's kind of how I got started in doing this, and it was a great place to share your work and to kind of grow as a community of artists, because I've met some really great people through doing that on Instagram, and friends, that I've made by posting artwork on there. People that I looked up to before I even started doing this myself. And so there was this camaraderie that has kind of fallen away over the years because of the way I think that I feel like the opportunity for people to maybe make those connections the way we used to is not as easy now. And so it's kind of sad. But again, like you were saying, hopefully someone comes along and is like, let's make a solid place for art to go. So I hope that's the case.
Well, there is one creator that I know of that's in this space that's working on different type of a social platform. Let me see if I can find the link. It's in one of our older episodes, but it's basically a more permanent form of social media where one of the problems that she wanted to solve was the fact that um, if your friends or whatever they post something on the timeline, well, it's going to get scrubbed unless you see it within the next 5 minutes, or if you just happen to be on their timeline scrolling. And so there is a kind of there's something that's lost in that because it just gets swept up in this scene of in the sea of like all the constant posts, the advertisements,
Hmm.
the engagement farming, and all that. And she wanted to make something that was kind of more like how Tumblr used to be, where
Hmm.
you'd create a page and you weren't posting every 5 seconds, and so people could actually like see um, a more frozen instance of whatever it is that you were making. And the way that she's actually made it look is fairly unique in itself. Let me see if I can just pull it up here, because it's not like a traditional timeline where you just kind of scroll through. Um, where you just scroll
Yeah,
through uh, the page there.
that's it's I used to post basically every time I post something on all the channels. I would put it on Tumblr because Tumblr was really nice because it would just basically, you could click the archive button and it would just show you every single month all of my stuff. And it was a really, I kind of gave up on I just kind of gave up on posting on all the different sites over time. And so yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, so this is Maya World, made by
Okay.
Maya and Juliet, and they essentially have these rooms where everybody that signs up, they have a room where they have four walls of floor and a ceiling, and they can make whatever it is the hell that they want. Let me see if we can get
Hmm.
to one of these rooms here. I'm gonna try to find this one. Somebody made one like for horse girls. They just put all like horses and Lana
Oh.
Del Rey on it, um, which is just very Tumblr coded. Let me see
Man.
here. Room 21. Okay. Yeah. So it's essentially a Tumblr.
Yeah.
It's very very like archaic version of like the internet. There's nothing flashy, like no links to click. Just
Oh,
just
cool.
photos.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, this is That's it kind of reminds me of oh crap. What are these? I'm trying to think of the worlds that we were making like kind of when NFTs took off. It was basically like your gallery. You would go in and you could have all your artwork that you had collected essentially like in this house or like room that you would create, and you could walk up to it with your little character, click on it, and if it was an animation, it would play. And yeah, I don't know. This kind of reminds me of that though. Like it's kind of cool. Like you can just go in and just see your stuff, see the stuff that you post up there.
Yeah. Now, like in terms of engagement, I don't know how they're gonna work on that in terms of like having people actually interact
Yeah.
with the posts and whatnot. Like there is a chat, and there is like a guest book that I think you can sign for each room. But it's just like a reimagining of social media, because
Mm-hmm.
now it's just, you pick what room you want to go to, and you pick exactly what you want to see, so it allows you kind of more curation in that regard. Now,
Right.
whether or not this can any way like be monetized for creators, I don't know, but they have like a whole
Mm-hmm.
philosophy that they wrote out in this PDF where they explain why they're doing it in this way and what the future is. And they want to do something interesting with copyright where anytime that you post like an image or something, it doesn't put you as like the owner of it, especially like if it's a copyrighted image, but it puts you like somewhere in the code that you were among the first to post it. And then when anybody remixes that same image that you posted, it'll also link back to the thing that you created. Because one of the things I
Oh.
noticed about a lot of the curation accounts on at least on X is that very few of the ones that are famous will actually credit the artist that they're posting, and they'll just simply throw it out into the ether. And then if you go into the
Yep.
comments, the artist will be like, "Hey man, like what the hell? Like I made this. Like give me credit where credit's due." You know?
You know, that's actually pretty funny because someone messaged me on Instagram and was like, "Oh, by the way, the majority of your videos, people and creators are just using as like intros to these like crazy videos on TikTok and on Instagram Reels and I was like, yeah, no, I know. They just download my stuff and they just use it and that's the other thing that I think is also um it, I've started running to more and more is they'll just download my stuff. Like why pay for it? They can just download it and they can just use it however they want to. I mean, and so that and like you were just saying, I actually do go into these accounts like uh I can't remember and they apologized and they post tagged me and like all this stuff, but someone shared a piece and this thing had like a million like likes or something like that
Mm-hmm.
and I just went to the thing and I was like, "Hey, thanks for sharing my art." Like that's what I usually
Yeah.
always do is I just as like a little nod to be like, "Ah, I see you there." And yeah, and so back to this term that we use over and over, like engagement. So why is that important? Why is our views? Why is engagement important? For artists especially. And I think that there's this weird misconception from a lot of people where they're like, "Who cares how many people see your stuff? Like blah, like just post it out there. It's not about the likes and engage." Well, okay, yes. If I was an artist and I had a full-time job as as a doctor or something, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care about that as much.
Mm-hmm.
But engagement is basically our business card, is our portfolio. It's how we get jobs a lot of times. And when you go from having it's like casting a net out. Like when you have a massive net and you cast it out and 70,000 people see your work, more likely than not, one or two of those people are going to go, you know what? I really like that. I'd like for them to work on XYZ for me. Awesome. Now, when we cast out this little bitty, fishing net, the little round ones, and, you're 5,000 people are seeing it now. That's still a decent amount of people, but the likelihood of someone going, I want that person to work with me on XYZ has dropped significantly. So engagement is important for artists because it essentially gets our stuff out there to help us get jobs. That is the part that is frustrating. And when people are like, it's not all about engagement. Yeah, I understand that. But also it kind of is, because for us, for a lot of us, that's how we get our stuff out there to get jobs. And so when these social media companies have come out there and just pulled the carpet out from underneath us and are like, hey, guess what? All those people that saw your work before, for almost a decade, now you get 1% of the people that follow you to see your work. That is extremely hurtful as far as getting business, getting jobs. Again, it's just like that billboard scenario. It's just like if someone came and built a giant building in front of like what your advertisement, and then they're like, sorry, you gotta, if you want it better, pay for it to be moved out in front of the building, I guess. And so, yeah, that's why we keep kind of going back and harping on this whole engagement, views, and all this thing, is because it actually does affect our job. So it is frustrating to us that that's the way we make our living. So anyway, I just wanted to put that little disclaimer out there on why we keep on harping on this engagement issue that we've been talking about now for like the past 3 to 4 years. It's just been a gut punch to a lot of us, and it's very frustrating that again, we went from the way things were set up for 10 years to them being like, you know what, we don't like that, we're not going to do that anymore, we're going to change. And then it just affecting all of us like so drastically, really.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen it like with what we post on the account as well, where like um I had to stop quote posting people's work because that wasn't getting as much engagement as us just posting the photos. Now, like obviously we want
Right.
to credit them, so like we'll tag the artists whenever we make the post, but it just showed me like yet again like, oh, well, now there's a clear incentive for people to just rip the work, and they don't even have to have any text in the post. If they don't want to, they can just like repost the artist's work, tag them or not, and
Yeah.
that doesn't harm their engagement nearly as much as it does if you just continuously quote post people. Which, like, I don't
Hmm.
know why they made that decision. Like, there might be some things that I'm just not taking into consideration here, but um, just that alone, it showed us like, oh, okay, so we can't just like quote post like people's posts, even though like that is the most direct way of giving them the credit and
Right.
getting their post more engagement, but our uh our engagement like dips as a result. So I was like, well, okay, well, what's the happy medium? Well, I guess we got to download the work and then actually repost it and all that, which is like, an extra step or two, but
Right.
okay,
Right.
all right, I guess that's what we got to do now.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just it's an ongoing struggle now. It's been years, and obviously I don't know if it's ever going to be changed back to how it was, but um yeah, so it's tough. It's tough giving people um um like insights into how to get your stuff out there and how to start doing this, because before it was pretty simple. It was just, create your work, put some hashtags, do it as much as you can, get it out on all of the different platforms, and then that will help start to get your stuff seen. Completely different ball game now. So it's hard to tell people what they should or shouldn't do these days just because of that. So anyway, that's my soapbox on that whole thing.
Yeah, no, because it is certainly an issue, especially with the digital creators. Now with like the NFT space as well. It's like how do you make yourself stand out uh, amongst other people that are maybe dealing with 10x or 100x your audience? How is it that you're able
Yeah.
to compete? It's something certainly worth considering. I've seen quite a few artists that like move on into like the physical space. So like they'll either like have prints or they'll create like a 3D printed thing for them. So that gets them like an extra additional bit of revenue. So they're not just focused
Mhm.
on the digital. But yeah, it would be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years when people just get fed up with this and they decide to to do it elsewhere. Because we've had platforms like DeviantArt
Mhm.
for like the longest time that are just strictly made for art and artists, and they do have a pipeline there where you can make you can have your stuff put on like a mug or a T-shirt or what have
Mhm.
you. It's just like DeviantArt is not exactly known to most people these days. It was more like a like the early 2000s kind of thing that blew
I
up,
remember
and
that.
now it's just I don't know. I mean, it's still there. They still got quite the user base, but it's not like a
Yeah.
main platform.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because just for example, like the NFT space, it was, when it first started out and I hopped into it back in 2020, late 2020, it was everything's got to be digital. Everything's digital, blah blah blah. And then it kind of slowly started to pivot to, well, it's got to be digital and physical. And then it kind of jumped into, well, more physical stuff was really with and then accompanying well, I can't say that, uh like maybe a digital certificate or whatnot.
Hmm.
um and then I've had people be like, well, you should sell prints of your stuff, that would probably do really well and stuff like that. Now, so here's the deal with that. I started doing prints on every single piece of artwork I made from 2016 up until 20 mid 2020. And the most I ever made in a month selling prints, or I think I had it like on, you get on blankets or pillows or like
Hmm.
I mean, 1 month I made $15. So like, and to keep in mind that was during the time when I was getting tens of thousands of likes, hundreds of thousands of views, and I would even on my stories on Instagram be like, all right, my society 6 page has been updated with all my artwork, and then yeah, nothing. So I don't know, like if maybe there's more of a like market for that now than there was, from 2016 to 2020. But I did indeed try doing the whole like selling print stuff, and it did not work out. So yeah, I don't know. Again, like I said, maybe it's a little different now.
Yeah. How do you find the NFT space these days?
Horrible.
Yeah.
Um,
Why is
well,
that?
okay, okay. I'll just for most of us, it's pretty bad. And what I mean by that is nobody's buying stuff anymore. I mean, if you're part of, like 10 artists maybe that are out there, I see kind of doing, selling the same thing over and over to kind of not the same exact, not necessarily the same collectors, but some, yeah, I see the same collectors kind of sometimes collecting the same artwork over the past several years, which is great. It's fantastic. But for the majority of us, it's kind of just died off. It just has been one of those things where there was like this filter, and there were so many of us at the beginning, and then it kind of just, as time went on, way more artists than collectors were out there, and there's just not enough money, obviously, for 50 million artists out there, and 5,000 collectors, and so if you were part of the 0.1% of artists out there that you had the right collectors being like, this is awesome, then you made it through. But for a lot of us, um just we couldn't, for whatever reason, just we just didn't make it through. We didn't make it through the I mean, even for someone, and I'm not trying to like toot my own horn here, but I didn't like, it wasn't like I came out of nowhere and started doing NFTs. Like I had already, established myself pretty well in the digital art space. And even for me, midway through 2021, people were just like, no thanks. And it was just, I was
Hmm.
like, I don't, okay, like, is there something I can do different? No, not really. And so it was weird because it was one of those things where I feel like I had a pretty good style. Like I felt like if people saw my stuff, they knew it was mine. And people just stopped buying it. And they uh stopped seeming like they were interested in buying them as NFTs. And that happened to a lot of artists. I mean, there still are some that are doing really well, which are awesome, which are friends of mine, and they're still doing pretty good in the space. And what I mean by that is they're making great sales, 2 or 3 times a year, but they're making pretty massive sales. And so they're probably able to still make living on that, or continue making a living from the insane amount of sales that they made back in 2021. Um, but yeah, I just think there were too many artists that jumped in, and there were too few collectors probably, and it just kind of imploded on itself. And I still see sales going on nowadays, but it's nowhere like it was in 2021, and I don't think personally that it's ever probably going to get to that state again. It's probably calmed itself down, and it's probably more realistic now, of a space compared to what it was a couple years ago.
Hmm.
But for the majority of us, even me, I got in 2020. What's funny is, um, if I would have answered a couple emails back in like 2017, 2018, I don't know, things may have been a little different if I would have hopped in all the way back then. I know a couple friends of mine that hopped in back at that time that are some of the biggest art sales people, artists in the world now. So, oops, I shouldn't. I should have checked my spam folder.
Hmm. Easy come, easy go.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's again, it was a great time, and I kind of had, sparkles in my eyes, thinking that it was going to be a game changer, and thinking, man, I've been, I've been putting in the time, and it's going to be this whole thing's gonna, make a change for me and my family for the rest of our lives and set up my kids and stuff like that. Like I was all like, man, this is absolutely crazy. And then everything just like came to a screeching halt like in August of 2021. And then basically from then on, it was just like no one, I would post things and nobody wanted anything more. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess that is done. So it was, and then really for like the next 2 or 3 years, I like every day would just like obsess with like, well, what did I do wrong? What could I have done different? Why are my friends that are creating artwork that looks thematically the exact same and, making these incredible sales? And I've been doing this for 10 years, and people seem super pumped about it, and it is out there, millions of people love it. Why is my stuff not doing as well? And I was just finally like, you know what? It is what it is. I don't want to lose sleep over it anymore. And so I just kind of was like, all right, I guess, the lot has been cast, so to speak. So I'll just gracefully bow out.
Yeah, I mean, I even see here on your super rare page that like the time in between sales, it there's a much bigger gap. Like I scrolled just a little bit down and I see like most of these were in 2021, and then
Yeah.
there's a handful that are like 2023, then 2024. So yeah, I
Yeah.
see exactly what you mean. It
I,
might have been. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but it might have had something to do with the fact that like crypto, um, and NFTs, it like the peak of it was when it became like a speculative asset, but then
right.
when those assets were not getting the returns that people wanted, on their apes or monkeys or whatever else that they were buying, I guess that's when the tank dried up, when you couldn't really flip an NFT for thousands anymore.
And I think that was the incorrect mindset of everyone going into it. Personally, I mean, I understand there's people that want to make money, but I compared it to if I walked into an art gallery, a local art gallery, and I saw a beautiful, like black, like a landscape photograph or painting, and I was like, and it was like, $1,500, and it was this big, just like 4x5 or whatever painting on the wall. And I was looking at that and I was like, man, I really, really want to buy that. And then I go over to the curator and be like, hey, if I buy that, is that gonna like 10 times when I walk out of here? Or like what's going on with this?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I would want
Yeah.
to buy it because I'm like, I love it. I'm gonna keep this on my wall my entire life. And that's why I wanted people to buy my work. I didn't want them buying it to be like, can I flip this for double in a month from now? Like, and I feel like there's so few collectors out there maybe that have that traditional mindset that it basically, for the standard kind of artist that was kind of going into it with that mindset, it just wasn't there. And that the majority of people that were buying, like you said, were like, oh, this isn't, I'm not making a $500 profit on this, this $250 artwork I just bought. I'm not going to buy it anymore. Like they didn't actually buy it because they liked it. They were buying it because they wanted to make money on it. And I think that was the issue that we all kind of ran into, kind of the roadblock, is that people weren't seeing the return that they wanted to, because that kind of seemed like that was the promise of NFTs at the get-go. It was like, you buy this crap, it's gonna freaking go way up here in like tomorrow. And I was guilty of that too, if I'm honest. Like I was guilty of buying a piece of art and then flipping it, you know, you know, $1,000 here, or a couple $100 there. Um, and I think we all kind of went into it more like with a gambling mindset
Hmm.
as opposed to a art collecting mindset. And yeah, I think a lot of us kind of maybe paid the price for that.
Yeah, and there's also like that missing piece from the NFT space. 'Cause it's one thing to be a collector, but then it's like, where do you actually exhibit your collection besides a website? There's not really, at least that I know of, a digital space where
Yeah.
people can show their NFTs off. Like the meta space or whatever Zuckerberg wanted to build was kind of supposed to be essentially that, where
Right.
just like how in Maya world you have your room and you can post like your art, in the meta
Hmm.
space you could essentially do that too, to the point where they were like selling plots of land last I heard, where like
Right. Yeah.
people were buying like their houses next to Snoop Dogg for thousands of dollars and whatnot, and then that never panned out.
Well,
Yeah, but there's not really that kind of a space where people can show that off.
yeah, and the closest thing that I think we've got to in regard to that is there have been a few companies out there that have created, screens that kind of cater to showing off digital artwork. Because I know I've had a few of my pieces that have gone out to exhibits around the world, and they'll have screens like that, and you can do a pretty good screen setup in your house. It's going to cost you a little more, obviously, so that's another additional cost on top of what you've already bought if you want to display it properly. But yeah, it's definitely more challenging to show off digital artwork, and I think that for me, I think like, and just recently, like yesterday, I was like, man, I should probably, if anyone ever in the future, possibly ever again, buys any of my work as an NFT, I'd probably provide like a print of it to go along with it, just like a still that they could print off. We could make really big and have it framed really nice to go along with the animated piece, because it just kind of gives that physical aspect to it. That piece right there that you're looking at, actually, I actually have it in my kitchen because Infinity Object. It's kind of a little digital frame, just like I think mine's a 5x7. It's just a
Hmm.
constant loop, and I have it plugged in, and it's just in a cool looking acrylic case, and it sits in my kitchen, and that piece just plays in loop over and over, and it does a pretty good job as displaying like an artwork. If you had an NFT, it's a pretty cool way just to kind of show it like as a little piece on your on your coffee table or shelf. So there are some things out there that do an okay job at doing that.
Yeah, there was one artist that we interviewed, for our show. She goes by the name of Baku. She actually runs a digital gallery in Montreal where they
Hmm.
have a screen set up that essentially looks like this. You
Yeah.
got two rows, of rotating screens, and they feature new artists. I think about every week or so, and they help them. They help link creators to collectors, where on their page, let me see if I can find it. Um, yeah, this right here. So they'll have like a whole gallery space dedicated to it.
Mm.
Whoops, nope, don't need the Phantom wallet. As they're yeah, as they essentially just help curate these works, and they have
Oh, right on.
different showings, and I think they even have drops that they do. Yeah, yeah, they do all these different drops. Um, and that's one way of doing it. Now,
Yeah.
how many of these like galleries will like actually exist right now? That's hard to say. But I have heard of like there's a lot of art that's also being shown in a lot of these like crypto expos. Like
Hmm.
recently we had one in Toronto, I think about a month or so ago, where like part of the decorations they had for the space was they had these giant screens set up for NFT artists. So,
Right.
yet another way for people to link up. But yeah, besides like having it really like having a giant screen hung up in your home, At the moment,
Right.
there really isn't any way to have that. But that VR idea of like having your creations as like a playable file, that
Hmm.
would certainly be one way to go about it.
Well, and that was, I mean, years ago. Um, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, I would love to, if someone bought my work as an NFT, especially an animated piece, they get the VR file to go with it. Um, and again, that's still something it's in my mind. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to figure out a way to package that up and everything like that. But that was one of my initial concepts was if you buy this, you get the physical print, you get the VR file, and then you get obviously a piece to go with it. Again, that's never panned out, but who knows what the future will hold. I'm not holding my breath for myself when it comes to NFTs, to be honest. I kind of put it out there as like, hey, listen, I'll do private. If you're really interested in a piece, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love, I could work with you on something. I'm not going to probably go out there and just start like minting crap willy-nilly like on my manifold being like, hey everyone, I have a one-on-one drop. Like, no, because no one cares, right? For me, like, it's just the reality of it. It's just like nobody cares. They're like, okay, like, and it's, again, like I said, that's kind of a tough pill to swallow, and the momentum I had built up over the years, and then now everyone's like, okay, wait, so what? So, and that's okay. Like I said, I've kind of come to terms with that. But if there was a piece that someone saw and they're like, I've got to have this, because that happens, I think, to a lot of us. I think a lot, like even myself, I find a piece of artwork and I'm like, man, that makes me feel really weird, but really cool. I'd really like to own that. I'm gonna approach them and ask them about it. And so, I did put that out there. I was like, if anything to anyone out there ever is like, and even if it's not NFT, if you just want to like buy a print or whatever, they're always free to reach out to me. I'm always willing to work with you and to figure out something for you. So it's not that I'm against or I'm like, I'm never doing NFTs again. I'm just not going to probably dedicate the time and effort into trying to market myself and come up with all these crazy like ideas, and I'm going to send you a blood sample and a piece of my hair with this work, and it'll unlock a key, an NFT key that's on a USB drive that's stuck in a wall in New York City. If you get that, it kicks, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just not
Yeah,
going to,
yeah.
that's just, and I know there's people out there that have made millions and they can do that kind of stuff or make giant sculptures of their artwork and put them in their town square, but I can't do that. And I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna put any time and effort into doing anything like that. So, um, yeah, I don't know. It's like I said, it was really life changing at the time. Um, you know, that first Nifty Gateway drop that I did, when I made as much as I made in 10 minutes as I made at my salaried job, corporate job all year was just life altering. Like, just I couldn't believe it. And it was nice. I mean, it definitely took the stress off of life. It took, it made life a little easier for a while, and so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for the people that partook in it and opened up some opportunities for my family and myself that I really, I had a chance to kind of take a breather, and it was really nice. And so I'll always be grateful for that. But it's different now. It's not like that anymore for the majority of us, and um, yeah. So it was cool.
No, no, right on. And as you were saying about like those all those convoluted ways that somebody could go about monetizing or creating value behind their NFT, there's one creative that comes to mind. His name is Schlums. Do you remember a while back there was like this fake news story going around that like Gmail was going to be sunsetted?
Yes.
So he's the creator behind this. He created so a fake email from Google, like essentially like a screen cap of it, and then he spread it across like the news. He first like made the post as if he's like, oh my god, like are they actually gonna do this? Like what the hell? And he's got a sizable following, so like it got shared to enough people, and then obviously engagement being what it is on X, people jumped on it, and he then took like I think about like a day after that, once like Google had responded and everyone else had gotten in on it, um, he was like, "Hey, like by the way, I did that, and I'm putting up the NFT up for auction on Google Drive servers as like another fuck you to Google, I guess."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
went about this whole like intricate way of doing that, and that was one example. Another time he took a supercar, like a Lambo or something, and demolished it with like TNT or whatever, and he auctioned off like the parts of it and actually made like tons of money doing it, which like I don't know how, but yeah. And then
I just
during the eclipse, he
sorry.
also like took like a photo of like every frame of the moon and had like a whole other thing. Anyways, he's super intricate when it comes with it, and always post these like really like cryptographic like things that take a while to understand. But yeah, he's the one that comes to mind when it comes to that stuff.
Man, I can't like that's just like so that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, kudos to him for being able to do that. Like my issue is, and I feel like a lot, this is probably true for a lot of people, is I'm afraid that you put in. So I'll use myself as a good example, actually. And this is kind of, if anyone's listening that knew about this, here we go. I was working on a big NFT project. I had a friend of mine who reached out, and he was like, "Dude, I love your series of this red cloaked lady." And he was like, "I'd like to. We could do like a big multi-series release on this, blah blah blah." And this is like 2022, and I was like, "That sounds great. That would be cool. I think that would go over really well because we had someone that was a really good script writer, that's worked on a couple of big, Hollywood movies that would help kind of like write the script behind these scenes, and then we were gonna do voice narration, like a voiceover with at the time Lance Reddick, and
Cool.
we put all this stuff together, and like I have even on my hard drive still, I have Lance Reddick, who's he passed away a couple years ago now,
Hmm.
but I don't know if this was like one of the last things he worked on, but I have all of his voiceover work, and I have all of the script, and I have all of these scenes rendered out, and this company, these guys that I was working with, like this is right when the bear market started happening, and I had spent months on this stuff. I basically dedicated like 5 months working essentially like 8 to 5, 5 days a week on like working on this stuff. And then nothing happened. Like they're like, well, we'll push it out. We're gonna wait for the bear market to kind of like, die down, get back into, because we were doing it on Solana at the time. And Solana at this point was like $40, $30 or $40. We're gonna
Oh
wait
wow.
for everything to pick back up, blah blah blah. And I was like, all right, cool, totally understand that. And then we waited, like a month back out, and I was like, hey guys, what do you guys think feeling about releasing this now? Oh, things are just kind of, we probably should wait a little bit long. Anyway, long story short, we have all this stuff that has been done, and this is 3 years ago now, and it's just dead. It's just like there's not like nothing came of it. So when I see these guys that like do this, like I'm gonna blow up a Lamborghini and sell for $1 billion a piece, like the paralyzing fear of working on something and putting a lot of like even money and a lot of effort into it, and then like three people being like, "That's cool," and then that being it is absolutely terrifying to me. Like because that's kind of what happened with that project I was working on. It a lot of work went into it, and then it didn't even do anything. And so um, and I feel like probably a lot of artists now have this fear is like, dude, we cannot dedicate hours and hours and hours and hours into a project and go out there and, rent out a gallery and rent out these spaces and do all this stuff and then be like, all right, guys, this artwork is now for sale. This is a one of one artwork and there's only one like it. And it's going to start off at 1 ETH, and then people and then you have a auction on it and no one bids on it. Like that's a terrifying thing to think about as an artist. Like, I know it happens all the time, but I don't know. That's to me personally, that's one of the biggest fears of mine is putting a lot of time doing something, working on something really good, putting it out there, and then people are like, "That's cool, I really like that," and then no one like is like interested at all at purchasing it. And so I don't even like, again, that kind of even goes back to what I was saying, whereas like I'll put stuff like, if you're interested in a piece, by all means, you can reach out to me, but I am not going to dedicate a bunch of time now into working on something to put it out there, knowing that the reality of the situation is that probably almost definitely no one's going to want to buy it at this point. So that's just how it is for me anyway.
Interesting. So who owns like the rights to the voiceover by Lance Reddick? Is there like still something that can be done to salvage that project, even
So
like if they don't distribute it? Like,
so that's actually a great question, and I'm not even 100% sure about that, because it was a company. When I say company, it was like four guys, and I'll have to read over the contract to look at that, because I don't even know if we had the if we had rights assigned to people. It's yeah, it is, like I said, it is frustrating because I have essentially several narrated pieces from him on my hard drive that are just sitting there that I don't exactly. And you know, if I go back through and I look at that stuff, I might just for fun, just because it would be cool, rework some worlds and some scenes based on what he's reading and based on the script that my buddy wrote, and maybe do something with that. Not necessarily releasing it as an NFT, but just because it would be cool, I think, to be out there, and maybe even, like, send it to his family. If like his family, if I contacted them and be like, hey, I made these pieces based on Lance's VO work, and I thought maybe you'd like to have them, something like that.
yeah, that would be really cool because I've always been a big fan of his voice actor work wherever it pops up, um, and his acting too. I mean,
Oh
genre
yeah.
and otherwise. But yeah,
Well,
that guy was a legend.
I originally saw him in Lost back in the day. Whenever I was watching
Mm.
Lost, he was on there, and I was like, that's where I first saw him. And then obviously, being in video games and stuff like that, like him being in like Destiny series and stuff like that, the VO work in that was awesome. So yeah,
Yeah, that's a shame that that project kind of fell through, and they were trying to just time the market.
yeah,
I get it; they got investments to make and all that.
right. And I think, again, that's almost going back to that fear that I kind of have for myself, is like, well, if we put that out there and like 10 people, are interested in it, and it makes $237, you know, and we just spent half a year working on it. That's a real tough blow. And I think at the time that probably was a realistic thing that could have happened, to be honest. Now I have no idea. I don't like, honestly, I've kind of been out of the loop as far as like the news of NFTs, like what's been going on. I have friends, that I follow, that I see when they make decent sales, and I'm pumped for them on that. But other than the people that I already follow, um, I'm not too I'm not too in that world anymore.
I think it'll make a comeback. I think it's only a matter of time
I hope
until
so.
some kind of other like different platform or um, way of showing off these NFTs comes about,
Yeah.
and as more digital galleries start popping up, I think it'll only help. Because like, I mean, look, 10 years ago we didn't have like that movie theater there that has the dome that's sweeping the entire room, but now we do, and so that gives a chance for all sorts of people to create art for that. I mean, concerts, in the early 2000s, like we might have had like some LED boards and whatnot, but nothing on the level of this, And
Right.
now that like having a stage like that, especially for EDM festivals or otherwise, um, it's given a space for people like yourself to actually make a living doing that. Whereas like 10, 20 years ago, it wasn't really, much of a job. Like, yeah, sure, you had your animations in the movies and whatnot, but unless you were working for a big studio, not really a lot of space for indie creators like yourself.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's true. And I mean, even like you were just saying, I mean, take the sphere, for example. I mean, I've had several friends that have had their work on the sphere. And I mean, I hope with, you know, the way technology progresses, the way that we can display stuff, that over the next, you know, couple years, that this just really, I hope that we were early and we kind of like, and you hear that all the time, right? If you're T world, you always hear, "Well, we're early." I mean, we've been early
Hmm.
for 5 years, so I mean, but really, I think as far as being able to display this stuff in a in a way that's economical, in a really nice way, I think we're still probably not quite there yet. And I think that when it gets there, I think that the intersection of owning digital assets and then being able to display them in a really good way will help shoot both of those things way up. In that regard, I do think we're early. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I certainly have faith. I think we're just kind of at the inception of it, where people, average people like myself, are now like getting into like the crypto space and learning about wallets and all
Yeah.
that. Because for the longest time, all those things just seemed just all too distant, and the amount of knowledge that you had to have in order to use these things and to not get scammed and all that,
Oh,
it was just far too big. But now I find
the
it's
scam.
it's a lot easier.
Yeah, yeah, man. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Like when you sent me that Discord link and messages, I didn't join it because I have been, I've been a victim of being scammed. Really bad in doing all this. I've had my X account hacked once. And it was from a verified account that was from someone that said that they were from Forbes Financial, and you go to their account and it looks legit, and they have the check mark, and you do um, crap. I think I even looked them up on LinkedIn, and I was like, okay, this person's on LinkedIn, this person's got their check, and then they sent me like a Calendly invite or something like that, and I clicked on it, boom, hacked. My account was compromised. And then, so I try really hard not to ever click on links from anyone that sends me stuff on here. And then, I actually lost. This was a super tough pill to swallow, and I'm saying this out of experience for to educate people that are listening. Let's see, it was the summer of 2023. I was outside sitting in my driveway with my family. It was in the summertime, probably around this time exactly, almost. And I just decided to come in because I was hot. I sat on my computer just to go on my, I think was it an email or was it OpenSea? I can't remember. It was one of the two. And it said someone was interested in buying something from my hidden my hidden section of my OpenSea account. So I clicked on it because there was like a 1.2 ETH offer at the time, which would have been around, I don't know, like $3,000 or something like that. I was like, oh, cool. Someone sent me a hidden thing that I didn't even want. This other person's interested in buying it. Cool. Sounds great. So I click on their account, and then it's like, it took me to their site, their website, which looked, it looked legit for what NFTs were at the time. And you had to like connect your wallet so you could make the transfer. 120,000 rare immediately drained from my wallet. So I lost about $33,000 in 1 second. I
Wow.
had my MF or PFP that was worth probably $3,000 drained. I had a couple other artworks, so I probably lost around $35,000 assets drained within 5 seconds. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was just like sitting there with my jaw on the floor, being like, wow, if I would not have come inside for this 2 minutes, I would still have my rare coins. I would still have my assets, my digital assets. Anyway, that's kind of what started the snowball effect of me being like, this, I can't do this. This is crazy. Like that hurt real bad. And so ever since then, like I post this often. I'm like, treat everything like a scam. Like, I've seen friends that have lost more than that, but 30, losing 30 grand is a very tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, that is not a small amount in crypto or otherwise. And now that you mention it, that actually explains why, um, like as I've begun to reach out to more and more artists to have on the show, I've noticed, like as you said, like people are just a lot less trusting with the kind of links that they click. Now, like luckily we
Th-
have a whole like episode library that people can see, like we are an actual
That's what I
show.
saw.
Yeah,
Yep.
like we're legit. Like we all we want to do is just have an open conversation. But I have been
Right.
noticing, like yeah, getting pushback like from links, like oh, I don't click links. If you want to show me
Yep.
your work, like I'll check it out and we'll go from there. But otherwise, like yeah, it's been a bit of a negotiating process with the
And
artists to get them on.
yeah, and I would say that a lot of times, and I do this myself, is a business. I'll be like, if they want to do like a Zoom call. As a matter of fact, I'm here after this. I'm gonna be like, hey, can I send you a Google invite or a Zoom link? And then because I've got a bad experience in the past from clicking on links. And so if you get that, if someone says that to you, if you're a business and you're wanting to interview people, don't be offended by it. It's because we've been screwed, and we're trying our hardest not to get our accounts hacked or get our wallets drained.
No, of course, and hey, fair enough. I totally get it. As someone who grew up on torrenting and pirating and all the old
Same,
forums, like
right?
I'm all too familiar with all the different ways that you
You,
can get screwed over.
you You'd think that growing up in the Napster LimeWire era that we would learn our lessons, but somehow we just don't ever see like I mean crap, I even worked on the Geek Squad when it first came out in Best Buy, like back in like 2000 like 2 or 3 or whenever that was.
Hmm.
Like taking viruses off people's computers, and I still get screwed. Like I still get hacked on. So they're tricky, man. They're super tricky. So anyway, yeah, it's 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 a minefield to navigate for sure.
Yeah, I mean they've only gotten more sophisticated. Like the fact that you could spoof a Calendly link or a Discord link or what have you. And that's not like not even like the most sophisticated ways of it, but yeah, no, I totally understand the apprehension that people have towards communicating like that. I mean, if you have your account that you've built over the years and you have all these tens of thousands of followers and your income, your family, like all these things rely on you having access to that account and being able to publish and have posts and all that. Like, yeah, I would totally understand why people are certainly apprehensive about going about it that way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's and I think maybe that's also why NFTs kind of get a weird like rap from the general public, is it just everything kind of seems shady.
Hmm.
Like anyway, and so and then when you hear about people like losing tens of thousands of dollars and getting accounts hacked and all this stuff, everyone just like, you know what? Turns out that is not for me. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I treat it with the same way that like I do with any spam emails that I get about like, oh,
Right.
you have a transfer coming into your bank account. It's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Somebody just decided out of the blue to give me 10K. Like, okay, like, all right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's funny. Yeah, dude, the spam folder, it's a tricky thing to navigate because, again, I got those Superware and Nifty Gateway invites so long ago, and I was like, "Oh," but then you also have the possibility of getting your bank account drained. So it's figure out what works.
Yeah, I mean, ever since I switched over to Proton Mail, I find I get a lot less of
Mm,
those the spam emails. I had Gmail
yeah,
on for the longest time just because it was easiest, but switching to Proton, like it certainly helped a lot. For one, I don't like see ads in my email, and then two, like the filters that they have are really good at keeping that stuff out. But even then, like someone could just DM you something, or you just come across
right.
like a QR code and you're curious and you want to scan it, and you should never do that. Never, ever, ever
Mm.
scan like QR codes out in the wild.
See, I
That's
didn't
just
I didn't
bait.
even know about that. Didn't know about that. So now I know.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
scan QR codes, but
No, no. Even like, 'cause here's the thing. Like, even like with those like official like sanctioned like places that you go to, whether it's like an event that your city is putting on or like a restaurant that
yeah,
you're at, all someone has to do is just like walk in, sit at the table or the area, and then just have their own QR code that they just paste on top of that.
ugh,
And a QR code, all it is just it's a set of instructions for your phone. So whether it's
right.
opening an app or going to a link or executing some code, like there's so much that could go wrong. And with like whenever I see one out in the wild, I was like, man, I wonder how many people actually scan that code. because they can get like credentials or just about like any piece of info that you need. So yeah, never ever scan QR codes unless like you're standing by the person that made the code and pasted it on the thing. Like that's the only way that I trust it.
Yeah, that's really good to know because again, I'm too lazy to do QR codes, but that's wild, man. Why can't people just be normal? Like let's just let's just let's just not do that stuff. Like come on guys. Let's anyway, I don't know.
I guess it pays to be a scammer every now and then when you land a big whale. I guess like when they get
They
that 30K like from yourself, they're like, "Oh, it's worth it. I'm gonna keep doing it."
dude, and that's the thing like I posted out there every once like the and on the anniversary of that I guess I'm not getting my $30,000 back. I hope these guys were able to pay for their grandmas like or something like that because yeah, maybe they really needed it. I don't know, but
I guess, yeah. But no, I have faith that like in the future, it's because I find with art or with any like real discipline, there's a lot of good that can come out of
yeah,
frustration. Because once you get frustrated with something enough, you realize, okay, there's got to be a simpler way. There's got to be a more legitimate way to do this, and that is usually like what spawns like creativity. Like
yeah,
one of the projects that I have in mind is called Token TV, where this guy got tired of getting YouTube slop recommended to him nonstop, and he was like, "Okay, you know what? I'm gonna make a platform that is putting the user first and putting what they want to see as a priority." And so the way
yeah.
that it works is people can upload like a YouTube link to the site, and you have these three tokens that regenerate every 24 hours, and so you get to vote on the kind of things that you want to see. And the whole
Mm,
goal is for people to curate unique and interesting videos that may not necessarily be in the like for you page and like the top trending, but they are still interesting videos nonetheless. So what results is you have all these videos where people have really creative and interesting things across many disciplines, whether it's music, film, I guess. Oh yeah, I gotta explore them. Across all these different disciplines, where people are
yeah.
actually incentivized to post interesting things instead of just letting the algorithm recommend whatever. And
Mm.
whatever gets like the top votes gets featured as like the main video for the day, and it refreshes every 24 hours. So now you're not
Oh
dealing
man.
with the algorithm. Now it's actually curated to what the people want to see.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on that. Yeah, man. Uh,
Yeah. No, so I have faith. I think eventually over time, like the right person will get frustrated enough, and the right person will get scammed enough, where they're like,
There
okay,
you
we've
go.
had enough of this.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, it is. Again, it's like you. It's hard to. It's Li like, when people say, "Well, what will be the next thing?" It's like, well, the majority of us can't imagine what the next thing will be because we couldn't imagine what, an iPhone would be or what all this other stuff that has come out that's just been crazy that we're like, "Oh, you like, could you imagine that not having it existed prior to it existing now?" And so, um, yeah. Oh, sorry. On a quick side note, I love on X how if you go to the media tab, it shows all of people's gifts that they share also.
Hmm.
So not just
Yeah.
their artwork, you get to see all their stupid gifs they share. Like on mine, I've been just like marveling at all of the animated gifs that I have on there. So
Yeah.
and stupid screenshots. So oh man, the Forrest Gump one, you can't go wrong with that. The wave.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
that's a classic. Um, in
So
any case, yeah, you mentioned that you wanted to end it off here. So is there anything else that you wanted to share before we close out here?
um no, I mean, to everyone that's listening, just keep showing up, keep creating, keep doing your thing and um it's fun, I mean, I have a great time with it. Before I started doing this full time, I would at my old job I created artwork on my lunch break on my laptop, and then I would come home and usually finish it at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night when everyone was asleep. So it's just because I love doing it, and I didn't get anything from it really, and I kind of still do the same thing. So anyway, yeah,
Right
hope you
on.
guys like it.
Yeah, no, it's amazing work, man. I first found it, I think, on Instagram with like the big hooded figure and the golden halo, and there's just something about it that captivated my attention. So I'm glad to have been able to have the opportunity to speak to you about it, because it's some incredible work, man. I love to see, especially like cyberpunk, like world building, or just imagining
Mhm.
a view like this from space. There's not really any other medium that can capture it as well as like these 3D rendered videos. So yeah, no, big fan,
Yeah,
big fan. Love your stuff.
I, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So you guys can find Stuz0r's work at Stuz0r on Twitter. Got the links up on all the socials there, Instagram and whatnot. So please do check it out. Thank you again for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on here. I haven't done one of these in a minute, so it has been nice being able to chat about stuff. And yeah, really appreciate it.
Right on. So yeah, stay tuned, guys. We got more interviews coming up this week, and yeah, would love to have you back on sometime if you got a project sometime in the future. So yeah, please do hit us up. It was a great time today.
Right on.
All right, take care, guys. We'll see you later.